Greetings and salutations, everyone. Today we're going to go over the lore in the new novel Shadows Rising, a book that takes place straight after the signing of the armistice. At the end of the Fourth War, a Horde Council was created to replace the position of War Chief, granting equal leadership to all of the Horde's leaders instead. At the same time, the Alliance is having its own troubles with Tyrande, who refuses to sign for peace, while Sylvanas is still out there. There will be major spoilers in this video regarding the book, so I suggest you read it for yourself rather than getting the summary nuggets I'm about to deliver to you. It's a really good story, and I honestly had a great deal of fun reading it. But with all that being said, let's get right into it and talk about Shadows Rising. At the start, we have King Anduin Wrynn on horseback, racing through Elwyn Forest, being tailed by Spymaster Matthias Shaw. For a moment, they talk about the former king Varian Wrynn, and how he handled himself and many things, teasing Anduin on how challenging he can be at times. Anduin is filled with turmoil over the recent events with the Night Elves. He sent letters addressed to both Tyrande and Malfurion in Nodrassil, but they're being ignored. They are disrupted by a nearby explosion at a farm caused by a drunk who is still grieving over the loss of a Forsaken whose life was claimed in Arathi. Anduin attempts to condone this man, but he's pushed aside and runs off, only to be knocked down by Illyria, who has no good news to share about their hunt for Sylvanas. They must return to Stormwind to discuss her whereabouts further. Thrall has remained in Orgrimmar after years of being departed from it. He's still adjusting to it, currently acting as the Orcs' leader and representative, and quite liking the fact that there is no longer a war chief. The Horde Council is very active and is gathered within Grommash Hold, still dealing with Sylvanas and her loyalists. Currently, they are congratulating two Tauren Braves in finding Dark Rangers, even if the Rangers offed themselves before capture. Kalia Menethil and Lillian Boss arrive pretty late. The Forsaken people are tired of Orgrimmar and would like to work on getting Lordaeron back as soon as possible. All conversations turn instead to Talanji's justice against the Alliance and Jaina Proudmoore, which leads into chaos in the Hold as Maghar and Darkspear support Talanji's vengeance. Thrall tries to quell the chaos, slightly succeeding, but driving Talanji to leave. The council takes a break after this, but Thrall isn't allowed one as Zakhan brings news from the Earthen Ring that the spirits are in turmoil. Thrall promises the council will deal with it at once. And meanwhile, in the swamps of Nazmir, Apari, the daughter of Yasma, and others who were banished by the royal crown are collaborating together to kill Queen Talanji. Nathanos and Sira arrive to make arrangements with the rebels. Back in Orgrimmar, a celebratory feast is held with all of the Horde's leaders and council members. During the feast, Zakhan keeps a close eye on Talanji, admiring her but also noticing her lack of guards and handmaidens, so he offers his aid. Immediately after, he is tripped by something and inadvertently stops an assassination attempt on Talanji's life. Thrall manages to grab this assassin and tries to figure out who sent him, but the assassin dies before he can even answer Thrall. Talanji leaves Orgrimmar to return to Zandalar, having no faith in the Horde. Zakhan is showered in praises and titles by the other council leaders, but Zakhan believes he isn't worthy of any of them, and shares Thrall's concern over the mystery surrounding the incident. Finally returned to the city of Dazar'alor, Talanji has brief doubts about leaving in the summit in Orgrimmar early. Instead, though, she opts to speak about the assassination attempt with Bwonsamdi, who reveals he assisted by pushing Zakhan to stop it. Talanji demands to see her father again, but Bwonsamdi isn't going to listen to her command, just as she isn't going to listen to him. Only through deals with either party will they get what they want. In the swamps of Nazmir, the Dark Rangers and the rebels have been discovered by the Zandalari patrol, and are in full retreat on Daredexes, back to their ship, the Banshee's Whale. They deal with the patrol by hiding the bodies in the ocean so they don't leave a trail behind. They then board the ship and sail off. Sierra has serious doubts in the rebels' abilities, but Nathanos assures her they'll be useful for their plans to get rid of Bwonsamdi, whose knowledge on death and alliance to the Horde could prove problematic for Sylvanas. However, they become aware that the assassination attempt by the Widow's Bite in Orgrimmar was an utter failure, and turn to a new plan of spreading dissent throughout the city of Dazar Alor. Zakhan tells the story of how he saved Talanji to aspiring shaman children, but is interrupted by summons to Grommash Hold by the Council. There, they ask Zakhan to act as their ambassador to Zandalar to ensure that Talanji remains in both the Council and the Horde. While hesitant in his abilities at first, he's stirred to accept by the memory of Varrock Sarfang. Rokan gives Zakhan a vote of confidence, and gives him a dagger just in case. Thrall also has faith in Zakhan just as Varrock did. In the meantime, Thrall has his own mission in Dojosil with the Earthen Ring to tend to. Back in the city of Stormwind, Shah had sent spies in Zuldazar to monitor any activity, only for their spies to be found peppered with arrows. They believe Dark Rangers are responsible for their deaths, and Anduin wants to act on this right now so that they can deal with Sylvanas. Turalyon believes a more subtle and slow approach is warranted, as to not butt heads with the armistice they just signed with the Horde. Gen has little faith in the Horde and believes that the Zandalari might be hiding Sylvanas in her agents. Anduin promotes Turalyon to Lord Commander of the Alliance, and asks that both he and Illyria bring Sylvanas and her cohorts to justice, by any means possible. Talanji is interrupted by Ambassador Zakhan shortly after granting a pardon and a wedding dowry to a poor girl whose family had rebelled against her father. Apparently the seeds of doubt have already been planted, and some of the Zandalari people think that the Horde is trying to do away with Talanji. The meeting with her people is ended so that she can talk with Zakhan and give him a tour of her palace, leaving the young troll very impressed by the architecture of Dazar Alor. As they talk, they slowly connect over the losses of their fathers, but it is interrupted by an attack by the rebels. While they're able to fight off most of the rebels, they are unable to take any of them prisoners for information, as they end themselves on the Royal Guard's blades, and Bwonsamdi dispatches one who is about to kill Talanji. This second attempt at her life further reassures her of Zakhan's loyalty, but also the severity of the matter, one that she plans to speak with her council about. While Talanji has her meeting with her Zanchuli council, Zakhan is visited by Bwonsamdi, who claims they make a good team and calls him Zappy Boy. Bwonsamdi offers to make a deal, or gift, with Zakhan in exchange to keeping Talanji in the Horde. Zakhan agrees and is shown a brief vision of death. In this vision, he witnesses Varrock, Dranosh, and Remda, Varrock's wife, on the hunt on Draenor. A very peaceful-looking afterlife. An afterlife Zakhan wonders if he'll one day see, but Bwonsamdi isn't willing to spoil that surprise quite yet. In Arathi, Illyria was taking some time to sleep on Turalyon's horse, waking up from a nightmare of Sylvanas tormenting her and her family. They capture some Horde refugees, promising not to harm any of them, so long as they answer them with no trouble, and even offering them some supplies. A Forsaken Apothecaria speaks up, demanding why they harmed them, when Endless War has already done that. An orc child tries to attack Illyria but fails, and is warned not to view war so fondly. The Orc child's mother is believed to hold the knowledge thereafter, and while they try to play nice with her, only through torture with the Void do they get the information thereafter. The apothecary from before speaks up, revealing he helped tend to a Dark Ranger's wound, and the entire refugee party vowed to talk silence regarding it. The apothecary is arrested and is sent straight to Stormwind for further questioning. Illyria, filled with guilt, asks the Alliance with her to give the refugees more supplies than they initially offered. Returning to the swamps of Nazmir with the rebels, they are performing a ritual to summon a mighty storm as proof to Nathanos of their power. To create the storm, they sacrifice a Zandalari merchant whose daughter was to be married soon. Once the storm was successfully summoned, Teo, the partner of Apari, would claim that her mother Yasma would be proud of her. Jaina arrives through a portal to Arathi to inquire about the information Illyria and Turalyon have uncovered regarding Sylvanas' whereabouts. She finds Illyria torturing a smuggler whose family is cowering at the sight of it all. Jaina is disgusted by their methods and tries a more gentle approach, finding out that the smuggler gave the Dark Ranger a boat for her dagger that they could sell for a hefty price. The Ranger is headed directly to Zandalar, and no other ships will be able to pass once the White Lady, the moon, is full. Jaina teleports back to Stormwind to report. This news excites Anduin initially, but Jaina also reports on what both Turalyon and Illyria have been doing to gather this information, something she heavily disagrees with. Anduin, hardened by war, believes it's justified if it means they can capture Sylvanas, much to Jaina's sorrow. The Alliance sends Flynn, his crew, and Matthias Shaw to see if everything checks out with the Dark Rangers on Zandalar. Their sailing is rather rough, thanks to the storm, but they thankfully have a tide sage with them to provide some level of ease. Together, they go over notes provided by some of Shaw's Horde spies, uncovering secret forces struggling with both the Horde Council and Queen Talanji. Back with Nathanos and Syrah, they're waiting for the rebels to arrive. Syrah is starting to realize the usefulness these rebels have, and even draws parallels between Apari and herself. The rebels arrive shortly with knowledge on how to destroy Bwonsamdi via the destruction of his shrines and followers. Nathanos is forced to give something precious and of great value to make this possible. He gives Apari his ranger badge given to him by Sylvanas while they were alive. Nathanos is very protective and even emotional over giving away this badge to complete their task, and vows that once this is all over, he'll drown Apari. Just before Thrall's journey to Nodosil, he reflects on his home back in Nagrand, missing both it and his entire family of Agra, Dirac, and his newborn daughter Rez, who are still not on Azeroth just yet. Thrall plans to take both Bane and Kalia to the new home of the Night Elves, as Bane was the most vocal leader who'd oppose Sylvanas during her regime, and Kalia because of what she's trying to do for the Kaldorei, raised into undeath by Sylvanas. Arriving in Nodosil by Hippogriff, they meet with Tyrande, Malfurion, Chandris, and Maiev. Thrall offers an apology to Tyrande for the Horde's actions for Teldrassil, before they discuss on how to fix this problem with spirits not passing correctly. Maiev believes that the entire Horde must answer for their crimes, while Chandra seems far more open to the apology, but still wants justice for Teldrassil. Tyrande refuses Thrall's apology and isn't willing to work with the Horde, so Thrall promises instead to bring her the head of Sylvanas Windrunner before they leave. In Dazar Lord's palace, Talanji is stirred by nightmares of Shadra trying to kill her, and witnessing the death of the one merchant, as she calls out to Bwonsamdi in terror. Bwonsamdi answers her summons and informs her that the Widow's Bite are weakening them both. Queen Talanji is starting to realize just how dire things are getting, and will call for the Horde's aid. but also states that after all this is done, she wants to end the pact between her and Bwonsamdi, despite the Low of Graves warning her against it. Talanji calls for a meeting with her Zanchuli Council and Zakan, where they plan to defend Bwonsamdi's shrines and necropolis. Rokan also takes a part in the meeting after arriving in Zandalar thanks to Gazlo's flying machine. Because the Zandalari won't fully support Bwonsamdi, Zakan believes the only way this will work is if the Horde helps, but due to the rumors circulating around the kingdom, the Zandalari also don't trust the Horde. This leaves the Zanchuli Council to remain undecided and in an uproar, causing both Rokan and Zakan to leave. Once again, Bwonsamdi visits Zakan and encourages him to keep trying. Back aboard the ship with Flynn's crew, both Flynn and Shaw talk about each other's mothers and grandmothers. A very secretive moment for them both, as they usually don't do that. Flynn's mother was a thief and was hanged for her misdeeds. Shaw's mother and grandmother were the same in that sense and had taught Shaw in the profession he's mastered as a rogue. Finally, they arrive in Zandalar after a rough landing. They don't have any forts to go to, however, because the armistice, which required all forts to be abandoned. They're spied on by some of the Widow's Bite and then outed by the Zandalari Royal Guards, forcing them to retreat and leave behind Matthias Shaw, who was captured and then imprisoned. In the city of Boralis, Jaina is hosting a rather awkward dinner with Turalyon, Illyria, and her mother. They were there to discuss a plan in case Shaw and Flynn failed in finding anything regarding Sylvanas or the Dark Rangers. Flynn arrives informing them that Shaw was captured by the Zandalari. Thanks to the notes uncovered by Shaw, written in Elven language of Thalassian, there is enough proof that the Dark Rangers are on Zandalar, and the letters between both Bane and Anduin gave insight that the Horde knew nothing about it. Illyria goes to inform Anduin of this development, but instead Jaina plans to go for the sake of the treaty, as she has her own plan of handling this. Thrall arrives back in Orgrimmar just in time to receive the news of what happened while he was away by G. Firepaw. He is given an invitation by Jaina to meet with her and King Anduin to discuss a plan on how to deal with Sylvanas' forces. G. Firepaw wishes to tag along with him regardless of whether it's a popular idea or not. They bring this invitation when it asks to the council. Voss, Lorthamar, Thalrisra, Kiro, Gazlo agree to the terms of trading information for Matthias Shaw's freedom. First Arcanist Thalrisra provides a portal for both Thrall and G so that they can meet with the Alliance. There, they all discuss what they've learned together. Thrall promises Matthias Shaw's freedom once they've taken care of the situation in Zandalar. The storm is getting worse, which forces Anduin and Jaina to leave immediately, though Jaina first teleports G and Thrall to safety near the shore just before she leaves. Back with Apari and her rebels, she thinks back on her past and why she must do what she's currently doing. Talanji and Apari were once friends, despite Apari being the daughter of Yasma, who tried to raise her not to trust the Loa. Apari sees Jaina and tries to use the storm to kill her, but is far too late, and Jaina escapes. The leader of the Widow's Bite doesn't have much longer, as she's succumbing to her wounds, and so they must act on ending Bwonsamdi very soon. Both Thrall and G arrive in Dazara Lore and make their way towards the pyramid from the distant spot where Jaina teleported them. They are both ambushed by rebels within the city, and they defend themselves. Thankfully, Rokan and the city guard arrive to deal with the rebels, providing Thrall and G a chance to escape and alert Talanji. Zakan announces both of their arrivals, and even apologizes for the lack of warning. Thrall informs Talanji that the Widow's Bite and the Dark Rangers have teamed up to take both her and Bwonsamdi down. This encourages Talanji to act now to protect Bwonsamdi and defeat the rebels. In the Dazara Lore prison, Shaw spends his time thinking about Flynn and talking with the guards as to not go mad. Shaw admits to himself that when he gets out of here, he'd like to spend some quality time with Flynn in a cabin. Tika and the Zandalari guards are fighting Dark Rangers near the tar pits to defend one of Bwonsamdi's shrines. Zandalari children are tied atop the shrine, and Tika goes to rescue them, regardless of what the other guards tell him, and nearly dies as a result. Bwonsamdi saves Tika from ultimately dying and going to the Maw, being called a liar by Tika due to the horrors of the Maw not matching what the Loa showed him what death was like. Bwonsamdi explains what the Maw is, a terrible place meant for the unredeemable souls, and that he's been keeping trolls, including King Rastakhan, from going directly to it. Bwonsamdi also believes that Sylvanas is working with someone or something that wants him gone. Back in the city of Stormwind, Anduin disguises himself with some old clothes and mud, feeling far freer under the identity of Jarek, and goes down to a bar to enjoy himself to be free of the burdens of leadership. He tries to enjoy himself with some of the other Stormwind recruits, but is caught by Jaina. He goes over to talk with the Lord Admiral as to why he looks like this, but is assured by her that not only is his secret safe with her, but it's good that he gets to be Jarek from time to time. Talanji is getting weaker, as all of Bwonsamdi's shrines have been destroyed. There are reports that Apari, her old friend, is leading the Widow's Bite, leaving Talanji quite upset. During the Battle of Dazara Lore, when Talanji raced to find her father, she found Apari trapped beneath a pillar, and she said she'd get help, but instead she chose to go to her father, leaving Apari to her fate. Talanji is starting to lose hope, but Bwonsamdi offers her further words of encouragement, and even promises that he'll help her rebuild their kingdom together. As the Widowbite continues to gain ground against Bwonsamdi and Zandalar, their numbers are starting to grow even when Apari is close to her deathbed. They take the Zobal ruins after showing no mercy to anyone who resides in them. After the battle is over, Nathanos goes for a walk, facing the necropolis where his target resides, and is visited by Bwonsamdi posing as his cousin, whom Nathanos had sacrificed for his current body. He vows to end Bwonsamdi for the Dark Lady, and to right Sylvanas on their progress. With the Zobal ruins finally taken, the Widow's Bite and Dark Rangers move on to the necropolis. The Zandalari are fearful of the Widow's Bite, resulting in fewer reinforcements against them. But the Horde arrives with reinforcements led by Thrall, Thalristra, and Bane. Thrall rides a new wolf that isn't Snowsong, known as Moonpaw, and is informed on Zakan's current injuries by a frail Talanji. Gazlo and Lorthamar are ensuring there is no escape for the rebels via the ocean, and are waiting for the storm to break before moving their ships in. Meanwhile, the ground forces move to take the fight to the necropolis. While the Horde is on the move, the Widow's Bite and Dark Rangers pull up 6 of Bwonsamdi's followers, which includes 2 old females, 3 old males, and 1 little girl, using the worshippers to bring Bwonsamdi out by any means possible. Tayo, Apari's follower, intervenes when the child is threatened with poison, saving her but then walking away. After some chanting from Bwonsamdi's followers, he finally appears and the battle begins between the Loa of Graves against the agents of Sylvanas. The Horde arrives in Zobal ruins about to charge, but are stopped by Tayo, who warns them about traps Nathanos had planted that would have wiped them out. Thrall throws out one of Gazlo's devices so that they can join the battle without being harmed by said traps. They rush into battle to defend Bwonsamdi. Thrall fights against the Dark Warden Sira, while Talanji fights Apari, whose tick latches onto her face, but is saved quickly by Bane, who smashes it to dust. Talanji even apologizes to Apari for everything, and gives her a peaceful and quick death. With Apari's death, the Widow's Bite retreats and the Horde stands as the winners of the battle. Sira refuses to flee and is knocked unconscious by Thrall and is captured. Before the Horde forces can deal with Nathanos, he escapes with the aid of a vial given to him by Sylvanas. Talanji vows to rejoin the Horde Council and give them a feast for what they did for Zandalar this day. The Horde Council provides Shaw with the means to leave on a Zandalari ship, with Syrah held as a prisoner for the Alliance, specifically for Tyrande. Flynn and Shaw are reunited, and Shaw asks Flynn to join him to spend that quality time together. Anduin attempts to question Syrah on just where Sylvanas is, but is merely mocked by the Dark Ranger, nearly using a shadow spell upon her in his frustrations, but managing to stop himself just beforehand. Tyrande arrives in Stormwind intrigued by Thrall's offer, joined by Chandris and Maiev. Entering into the stockades to find an unarmored Syrah, Tyrande almost plans to kill Syrah slowly, but instead is stopped by Maiev, who encourages her not to be like Maiev once was with her obsession with vengeance. Tyrande departs, leaving Syrah to her fate as a prisoner within the stockades. Victorious in their endeavors, the Horde returns back to Orgrimmar after the feast. Shrines of Bwonsamdi are already being repaired, helping the Loa regain his power, although he's quite not at full strength just yet. While Talanji still wants the Alliance and Jaina to answer for their crimes against Zuldazar, she is now fully willing to work with the Horde and return back to Orgrimmar. Zakan is still recovering from his wounds, but is doing better, leaving along with the rest of the Horde, but saying his goodbyes to Talanji, who will miss both him and the Horde's presence. Tayo is acting as the new ambassador for the Zandalari, thanks to her deeds of saving most of the Horde from Nathanos' traps, and aligning herself with the right side. Bwonsamdi offers to undo their bond, but Talanji decides that she merely wishes to amend their deal. Bwonsamdi will remain the current Loa of Kings, but will cede some of his power and influence to the other Loa for the sake of crops and other vital aspects of the Zandalari life. He briefly allows King Rastakhan to reunite with his daughter, enough to give a hug and words, love. Sylvanas has just broken the Helm of Domination and defeated Bolvar atop of Icecrown Citadel. Nathanos arrives shortly afterwards thanks to the vial he had used to escape, and informs his Dark Lady of his failure to kill Bwonsamdi. Displeased by this, she waves him off, telling him to thwart Bwonsamdi in some shape or form, and then goes to enter the realm of the Shadowlands, leaving Nathanos to return to his home in the Western Plaguelands alone. And that was Shadows Rising, everyone. I quite enjoyed myself with this book, and there's so many great parts with Thrall, Talanji, Bwonsamdi, and even Nathanos of all things. Madeline Roux did a fantastic job, and I hope we see more from her soon. I hope you all enjoyed the summary reading coverage thing I did, and I'm likely to do another one whenever another book like this comes out. Tell me what you thought of Shadows Rising in the comments down below. What were your favorite parts? What were your least favorite parts? Let me know down below. You can follow me on Twitter to hear me shitpost or talk about my opinions a lot if you'd like. You can join us on Discord to talk about all sorts of things. Or if you really want to, you can go follow me on my Twitch, where I'm not very active, but I'll try to do more on there when I have the free time. Also, if you like these videos, you can support me on Patreon like these amazing folks here. But until next time, my friends, see ya!